it's really helpful to kind of wrap your arms around and think about what digital transformation is. It's helpful to start by kind of defining this is what you mean, so that you can think about it. And at NASA, we do use a really broad scope when we describe digital transformation. So first, if you haven't talked about this much before, we experience digital transformation every time that we withdraw money from an ATM, we ask a digital assistant about the weather, we listen to music on our smartphone. That's all kind of from that provenance. During the past decade, our day-to-day tasks have been revolutionized by these ideas. NASA has really been broadly pursuing those. That's how we use a really big umbrella to describe what digital transformation looks like. Every time we digitize or streamline a paper process, we use new collaboration tools, we kind of connect previously siloed data, we can put that kind of a little bit in the digital transformation bucket, and we start to think about it that way. Until recently, though, we didn't have a really broad umbrella agency level coordination for it. We had lots of excellent work happening in many distributed places. And so what began in 2017 and then turned into sort of a strategic kind of tiger team last year, which is something that I was on and I'll talk about a little bit more, was the decision to create an agency digital transformation strategy. So that product, the digital transformation strategy for the agency, was approved in spring of this year, and it's led by our Office of the Chief Information Officer and the Office of the Chief Technologist. I don't work for either of those folks directly. I do coordinate very, very closely with them in terms of kind of what we're doing with digital transformation, and I am one of the mission directorate representatives to that central team. Digital transformation, I think this is really helpful for us, has been framed as a catalyst. So it's not necessarily just one project, it's a thing that kind of inspires work and ties it together and thinks about it at a really high agency level connection. So I'm gonna talk for a few moments about my role on that digital transformation tiger team, because there's something that I think you can do if you have something going on in terms of digital transformation in your organization. So my role, as I mentioned, is the representative for our mission directorate to that agency team. And I also then put up my hand and led the literature review that we did and administrative lessons learned for our team, which is just a completely natural fit for a knowledge management person. I think when you start to hear, oh, we need to like sort of review literature and make sense of it, it's just like, yeah, I should be there, I can help that. And what we did with that, actually first I will frame the problem. Have any of you ever been on a team where every once in a while, possibly multiple times a week, people will send an email to 50 or 60 people and say, look at this great article I found. And everyone has the best intention of reading it and reviewing it and making sense of it, and you never actually find the time. So that's what our problem was too. And what we kind of started to do initially with this literature, this sense of we should really do a deeper study of what's going on in kind of the industry space, was we started by thinking, okay, let's capture it all, kind of in a central repository so everyone has access to that information, and it's not just an email, which is a really good first step. Kind of sorted it a little bit, we started to make sense of it around that area. And then the next realization was, but we didn't really analyze it. We hadn't thought about how do all these things come together in one place. And so what I volunteered to take on and was able to do in close coordination with one of our co-chairs for the digital transformation work was enlist the help of volunteer, or I shouldn't say volunteer, virtual student federal service e-interns. This is a program that I actually helped to stand up 10 years ago when I was at the State Department, but it's open to all federal agencies. So you can get the help of virtual interns from any US college or university up to about 10 hours a week to work on substantive projects that they don't have to be on site for. It's a perfect thing for a literature review. If you're a federal agency, I encourage you to take a look at it as a program. And so we reached out to the program managers. They were incredibly helpful in helping us identify some people who were fantastic partners for us. And what they did was they looked at 5 or 6 dozen articles, peer-reviewed articles, industry articles, other kinds of media. They sorted them, categorized them, added abstracts and highlights, and pulled lots and lots of things together. And they sort of brought back recommendations from all of the substantive literature around digital transformation and said, these are the common threads. And that was really, really useful for us to say, we think this is where we're going, this is what we've done, and here's some separate stuff to kind of validate that process. What they came up with, though, also in addition to kind of the 6 or 7 kind of areas that we were mostly focusing on in digital transformation, were three key recommendations. And I think of these as kind of the why, the what, and the how for digital transformation at an organizational level. And if you look at them, if you think the first is kind of why you do this to retain your competitive advantages, realize fuel efficiency. What is kind of the align your roadmap with the priorities of leadership, and then how, cultivate your culture through continuous improvement. Those sound a lot like knowledge management to me. And so what we kind of came to was these can be really, really complementary areas. They might not always be one-to-one, but there's lots of places where we're really speaking towards the same goal. So if we can try where we can to line them up and make sure they're in conversation with each other throughout, that could be really helpful to us.